Okay, Mesechta bava basra, Dav Zayin Amud Aleph. We're starting from Bava Amud Beis. Yesterday we spoke about Shutfin, and we're going to continue with the story. So, it's just my father, Rav Shalom Ber Davar, Rav Chaim Yitzchak Zalus, it's my mother, Sarah Esther, Hasbun Leia, Baruch Has Yom Shalom Tevis, the Tosh Shulman Sarah Esther, and the Ganas Mishpacha, Alf Tov, Rabbi Shane, Rabbi Raskin, Rabbi Greisman, alle brachis von alle Tov, and Torah, Nirveh Nigla. Okay. Zog the Yemada, Hanu Beitrei. You have it, the second line from the bottom. So now we're going to talk about Shutfim, another Inyan in Shutfim. Hanu Beitrei, the Havu Daire. There were two brothers that inherited it from their father a house. And they divided the house. Chad Havadaye Eloi, Chad Havadaye Tatoi. One lived on the upper part of the house, and one lived in the lower part of the house. A two-family house. Itve Tatoi. The walls of the bottom floor started to sink in. Amalei Tatoi Eloi. The bottom floor said to the upper floor, come, let's demolish the house and build over the house. My house is fully sinking in. Amalei Ano Shapir Kado Irna. He says, listen, I'm happy the way I am. The guy on the upper floor. My floor, there's nothing sinking. Everything is perfect. So there's nothing for me to destroy here. Amalei, so the brother who's on the bottom floor, he says, listen, you know what? You don't have to pay for the breaking of the house. I'll break down the house and I'll build it. Oh, so Amalei, so his brother says, Leslie Duchte Lamedaba, I don't have where to live. So Amalei, he says, listen, don't worry, I'll take care of that too. Ano Oigelacha Duchte. No, he was there. It was sinking. He was manageable, but he's foreseeing what's going to happen in the future. He wants to take care of business now before everything falls apart. So Amalei, he says, listen, you don't have where to stay. I'm going to rent a place for you. Amalei, so he says, for me to move is too much. I have to move. It's too much. I know you're paying for everything, but it's too much for me. I don't want to move. So he says, he says, you're not letting me live. He says, no, I'm letting you live. Lie down on your stomach, you can crawl in, and lie down on your stomach and crawl out. This not so bad.
Because everything's
saying down. So he says, so you said, get on your stomach and crawl in. What's the big deal? It's no big deal. Sagt die Gemara, he says, Al Pidin, can I uphalten? The one on the top floor could say, I don't have to move out. I could stay here, even though you offer me everything. I'm not moving out because for me it's a tircha to move out.
Such a good brother.
Yeah, Zaguchin, yeah. No, it says that they were brothers. He brings down. He brings down that they were brothers. Yeah. Zag the mother. Hani mili the leimatik shuru lemat masara. This is only one of these words said that the upper floor could say, listen, I don't want to move out. That's only as long as it didn't go less than 10 tvachim. Like a sukkah, minimum 10 tvachim. But less than that, it's not kosher.
If the building went down 10 tvachim.
No, if the building went down so low that there's only a space of 10 tvachim, 10 tvachim is garnished. I mean, it's mamash garnished. So he says, as long as it didn't, as long as it didn't go under 10 tvachim. But if the walls came down lower than 10 tvachim, Matzamalei, you can say, hey, lemat ma'asara, under 10 tvachim, reshus adidi. It's my reshus. So whatever it comes down under my 10 tvachim, I'll cut off. You're not going to have a floor. You're not going to have nothing. I'm not meshubit to you. All this that we said about the 10 tvach, up to 10 tvachim low, the halacha is that he could say, don't bother me, I don't want to move out, even though you're paying for everything. This is all talking about only if they didn't make a condition between each other when they took the house. Everybody knows house sinks, especially then. So
we have to share in maintenance.
Yeah, that they had to make an agreement. So, but that's all talking about. There was no agreement. But if they had an agreement, then even if it's sunken a little bit, you have to do it. You would have to, the bottom floor would have to move out. They would destroy the house and rebuild it. If they made up with four. In fact, when they made a condition that if it starts sinking in, that we have to destroy it. At kama. They didn't write explicitly how low, so how much is considered when you say if it sinks in, you have to. What does the Tanai consist of if it was written in a big ambiguous way? It wasn't written clearly. The Rabbanan said before Rabba, in the name of Mazuta, the son of Rav Nachman, that the Omer Mishmei Rav Nachman, that they said in the name of Rav Nachman, like that Mishnah Shoshanino that we learned later on Tzaddik Amud Beis, that Rumai, how do you evaluate the height of a building? So you take the length and the width, and half of that is the height. Where do we learn it out from? So he says we learn it out from the Heichel. The Makkah is from the Heichel. What was by the Heichel? It says, Klal Zeh Meyuzad Al Midas HaHeichel. What was the dimensions of the Heichel? It was 40 amas long, and it was 20 amas wide. So the Heichel was 40 amas long and 20 amas wide. So altogether 40 plus 20 is 60. You divide it in half, is 30. That's how high it was. So if you have a room 10 by 10, right? So that's 20. So the height was 10 feet high. It's quite high, but that's the rumei. That's the measurements. Anything lower than that, anything lower than the length and the width together divided by half, if it falls down lower, you could demolish the house. So I'm this is Sirike Rav Nachman. Haven't I told you already in the past? Don't hang up empty jugs on Rav Nachman's neck. Rav Nachman saying that he said such din, such pusta dinim. He never said this. He says that's not what Rav Nachman said. This is how Rav Nachman said it. That you're not allowed to force the other guy to take apart the house, only if it's less than the normal way of people living it. As long as normal people can live there, you can't break it. You can't break down the. You can't force them to take down the house and rebuild it. How much is that called the normal? Yeah, as he says, as enough to be able to bring in a bundle, not a bundle of tall reeds into the house that he can move around. Meaning that you can move around with kalim. There's enough space to move around big kalim because the reeds were tall. And to move it around, that's the normal amount of space. But as long as you can move around big stuff around. Now he tells you another case. There was this person that had a bunny ashisa.
But he didn't tell the amount how much. He just told them.
Oh, so that's a shear that you can move around.
You could breathe.
Big reeds or tall reeds.
Those numbers didn't make any sense. You just add the two numbers
But that number comes with a mucker from the Heichel. That's how high the Heichel was. You divided the width and the length. The length was 40 amas and the width was 20. You divide that in 30, and taka, the height of the Heichel was 30 amas high. There was what to base it on, but he said that's not what. The less than that you can force it. It doesn't make sense. It was so tall. It says to leave such an empty jug on and say that's on Nachman, that's what he said. So he says no. It means enough to move around for normal people to move around.
Those were tall people.
Right? Okay, but still, not 30 feet high. I mean,
it should be like a palace.
My Moshe Rabbeinu says just his Moshe Rabbeinu was 30 feet high. He was 10 feet. I'm sorry, he's 10 feet high, 10 amas high, and his stick was 10 amas, and he jumped 10 amas, and he hit the ankle of Oig Melech HaBashal. Okay, there was this person that Hababani Hashu say Ashisa Achire Kavide Chabrei. There was this person that built a wall against the windows of the person's house next to him, and he didn't distance it 4 amas.
Oh, and he blocked his.
And he blocked the light. But this is only the only time when could you force a person to build 4 amas away is only if Yana had a chazaka with the windows for 3 years. So then, then he can force it. But here's talking about that he didn't have a chazaka.
He just bought a house.
I don't know. He just bought a house and he has windows there, and the guy builds a wall within the 3 years to block the windows. Amalei come out faultly. He says, "Look, you're darkening my house." Amalei sachana lach halchav avidnu lach kavi leil mashi soy. He says, "You know what? I'll go to your back wall. I'll close up the windows where my wall is blocking. I'll build you windows. I'll open up windows all the way on the top." So all the Mepharshim here said, what does he need windows on the top? A person, he's sitting in the dining room, he has a beautiful, sight to look out his window. Oh, we're going to take your windows, we're going to build it up all the way on the top. So you'll look on the top, what are you going to see?
The guy from the wall told him?
The guy from the wall tells him, I'll put the wall.
That's what Deshmul wants to do with the property.
With the mikveh.
The guys have windows.
Yeah, but I'm saying a normal guy in a house makes a beautiful window on the side. That's the beauty of the house. So the Gemara will say later, it's not a house, it's a warehouse. He just needs light. It doesn't matter where the windows are. So says the Gemara, Amalei Kamarisli Alashi Soy. If you're gonna break more windows on the top, and there are already windows here, my whole wall will fall. It's gonna fall apart. Yeah, especially the back wall is that holds the 2 walls on the side. It's gonna fall apart. Amalei, you know what? Satana lach ashisach. I'm gonna cut down the wall till where the windows are, till beneath the windows, and I'll build a new wall on top of the old wall, and it's not going to be weak. And I'll make the windows on the top. I'll do it right. So I'll make you a new half a wall from under the windows, under the old windows. Build it all brick all the way to the top, and there I'll make your windows on top over the wall. He says, on the bottom half of the wall, you're going to have an old wall. So the cement is already very old. You're going to stick a new wall onto that. It's not going to hold. It's not going to stick. So he says, I hear you. Okay, I'll take off the whole wall. And he says, and I'll build you a whole new wall in the back. And on the top, I'll make you the windows. He says, you're building one new wall in the back. I'm very happy that you're doing that, but the walls that are connecting with it from my house are old walls. It's not going to stay good, so I can't. Okay. So I'll throw down your whole house. And I'll make you a new house, and I'll make the windows on the top.
Everything for that wall.
Everything for that wall. I don't have where to live in the time that you're going to throw down that house. I'll rent you a different warehouse. I don't want to go through the bother of emptying it out.
I said this before.
Yeah, Avchama says he could say, I don't want to be bothered. Go away. Says the Gemara, this is exactly the same case as the first case.
The 2 brothers.
So the 2 brothers with the house. What do I need this for? With the 2 houses that sunk in, what's the difference? The same story. He says, even though this was just that warehouse put to hold material, so it's not so sensitive. It's just materials. He still can tell him, I don't want to go through the bother, and he cannot force him. Okay. There were 2 brothers that divided between each other.
Here's the 2 brothers, not before it was 2 brothers.
It says before also 2 brothers. This second case doesn't talk about 2 brothers. The first case it does. There were 2 brothers that they divided a Yerusha between each other. One took the palace. The Aruch says a cave. But we will learn, Rashi says it's a palace. And the other one took the garden. The person who took the garden as the Yerusha, and the one that had the garden in his Rishus, he built a wall blocking now the light coming into the palace. Now, of course, it's not. There's no chazaka here because they just inherited. It's like no. He says, listen, you're darkening my house. I'm building in my garden. What do you have with any tightness? Rav Chama said the din come alay. The din he could tell him goodbye. I'm building in my house.
Rab Chana passing always in one way, right?
Yeah, his 4 dinim of Rav Chama we're going to talk about, and the halacha is normally like him. And one case, last case, there's a machlokes if the halacha is like him or not. Rabbeinu said to Ravashi, "My shna mehadatanyo." How is it different than this that we learned in the Brayso? Shnei achim sha'acholkel, 2 brothers that had divided. Echad behem natos they carem. One took a vineyard. Echad behem natos they lovin. And another one, the other brother took the wheat, no trees. That's why it's called lovin. It's white. There's no shade. So yes, le lebal hakerem arba ames b'zdei lovin. The halacha is the one that took the kerem. He gets automatic rights to go into the wheat field to work around the skedim. 4 amas. Oh, very good. Yeah, 4 amas to work around. Shamadas kein cholko. That's definitely when they divided the Yerusha. He says, "I'm paying you for the kerem, but when I'm paying you to take the better piece, I'm giving." He tells the brother, "But you got to give me access to work around the kerem." So the Gemara is saying, "Al derazeh," when he divided with him the taklin. For sure, he gave him access that he should have light. Amalei Hasam the says, "You want to know? There it's different. By the Keren, the division was made with money. He paid for it." In fact, the Gemara, what? Aval Hacha, my the guy who took the palace didn't pay the guy who just took the garden any money to take the lesser piece of the lesser part of the Yerusha. So then we're talking about normal people. Each one knows but that this is a palace and this is getting a garden. The high shokas palida, the high shok tabitza. I mean, of course, you think they didn't make up a price for him taking the palace that he didn't pay more for it? Obviously, he did. So if he did, he paid for the light. The palace is with light. I'm like, no, you're right. He for sure paid for the palace more than the garden. That's But what did he pay? The May Livnik Shuri Vihudri. He paid for the bricks, he paid for the beams and the wood, the materials, which is much more than just a little garden, which is not much material. The May Avira, but for the air rights that he should have the sun coming in, he didn't make up with that he didn't pay for. It's not something like it's Adova Mamosh is. There, you're talking about bricks, beams, and wood, and flooring.
I'm sure today you do that. Right?
I tell you, but I'm saying then that was not Mamashis. So, in fact, to begin with, I divided by taking a palace. Now you gave me a dark room. A dark room, a cave. You put me. It's nothing. They only divided the name. It's called palace. Even though it's dark, but it's still called the palace. So that's what he sold them. And where do we see palace? People sell a palace, and even though it doesn't have all the criteria, when you sell something, it doesn't have all the criteria that the name represents. He says, "We like Tanya. Have we not learned in the Brayso? Even a base core offer. Somebody says, I'm selling you. I'm selling you a base core. A base core is a big shetach of land. And what did he do? Afapi, when he comes down to land, you see, it doesn't have space of a whole kur. It only had space of a chatzi kur. Lesach is a half a kur. Higiya, we say the sale is a sale because he sold him the name. Because shaloi machaloi elashma, for he has not sold him only the name, and it was called Behuda Miski Beis Kur, and it was called Beis Kur. The palace is called palace, even though it doesn't have all the criteria that a palace has. Yes, we had the exact same piece. Yeah, we had it before. I'm selling you an orchard. Usually in an orchard, what do you have? You have pomegranates. Even though in this orchard there was no remaining. There's nothing. There's no not growing. There's not planted even. We say the sale is a sale. Why? He only sold in the name, and it was called Pardes, so he sold in Pardes, even though it doesn't have anything that resembles Pardes. And that's what I sold you. The name Trump. You can buy Trump hotels. It's not real. I'm selling you a vineyard. And what do you have in vineyards? Weintrauben. You have grapes and vines. From him, even though in this kerem that he said, I'm selling your kerem, and there's no vines, no grapes, nothing.
There's no trees.
Yeah, and it's a sale. He only sold in the name, it's called kerem.
There used to be a white garden.
Yeah. Like the Gemara, Midami. How could you compare by selling a name to this case of the brothers dividing the palace and the garden? That the Meicha says to Lekech, Shmaz Abinalach, I sold you the name. Hacham Matzi Amalei, but here the brother could say to him, Adaita Dachi Plaugi, that the Ina Beki Hechdi Daru Av Hasan. He says, when we divided it, I divided it just like our fathers lived there. Not all of a sudden things start changing when we inherit. And when our father lived there, there was no wall. It was a lit up, beautiful palace.
You come, you're in trouble.
Yeah, troublemaker. Amalei, Man Yenuka Makshisha, but they have Chisda. So, Man Yenuka
We had
Makshisha.
a story with them before, no?
Huh? With Man Yenuka Makshisha?
Who's the older one, really? Who was it?
Very good.
And
Right, so Rashi and Ksubah says they had the same name. Rashi and Ksubah says they had them. Okay, so Rashi says they had the same name. So why they call Mayanuka Makshisha? Because Mayanuka is to say one was the younger one and Makshisha is the older one. Others say no, the name was Mayanuka. Taisa says the name was Mayanuka. What does Mayanuka mean? He was born, he was the older one, and that's why it says Mayanuka. Why Yanuka? Because he was born when the father was still young.
The father
Was still young, but he's the older one. That's why we said Mayanuka first. Well, Makshisha means Ben Skunim, that he was born when the father was older. So he's the younger one. That's why it says.
Santa said that even on his old, on his younger son, the son that was born, he said,
Yeah.
Es is Lamarbe, your brother.
Yes.
So he says it also comes to be Marbe, your youngest brother.
Uh-huh.
Because the youngest brother was born when I was already a Rebbe.
Okay.
If he had that.
Good. So he says over here, Mayanuka Makshisha, Bereder Rav Chizda Ravashi. Mayanuka Makshisha, the son of Rav Chizda said to Ravashi. Because we want to explain over here that even though outside Yodesh, the father had a beautiful palace, and all of a sudden he can put up a wall. Where does he get that from? Where does Avchama get it from? So we said, Avchama gets it from Nahadoi, from the people he himself was from Nahadoi, and from Shmuel, who was Rosh Hashiva Nahadoi, L'Tamayo, they went according to their reasoning, that even by a Yerusha you can build up a wall and darken the guy's palace. Where do we see that? Rav Nachman had said the name of Shmuel, Ha'achin Shachoku, brothers that had divided, Eilahem loy derech zalzeh. He used to have a pathway to go through his one field to go to the next field. Now they divided. One person has one field and the other person has the other field. So coming out from the outside, he has to get to his field. He used to be able to go through the pathway. Now the guy says, no, there's a toll here. Or go around. You can't go through you want to make a path? You're going to have to pay. He could stop it. Or he says, and this is our case. He can build up a wall. The guy in, let's say, like we have a palace and a garden. The guy in the garden can build a wall against his windows and darken it, and he can't say I have the rights to the window to the sunlight. The bottom floor got the bottom floor plus the chutzah, and the brother got the upper floor. So now they used to have a ladder that from the chutzah to go up to the older floor. The guy says, "This is my chutzah. You can't put it here. You figure out how you get up to the other floor, but not. It goes somewhere else, but not here. Not my chutzah." And so the Gemara says, "It's all right." So the Gemara says, "Okay, I'll just sit like this." Okay, so the Gemara, "V'loy salam zelzeh." So we said, "And v'loy amas hamayim ze alzeh." There used to be. That from the river, they used to make a strip that went through one field into the next field. So the water used to be able to go through. He says, no more. I'm shutting that down. I don't want water going through my field to enter your field. And he said, "V'zoharu b'hen shaloch say." And you better be careful in these psakim, because these are established halachis. The Rabba Amar
But they could do this.
that they could do it.
Because it's their property.
It's their property. So from here, that's where Rav Chama got his reasoning that even though they inherited, even though their father had the light, but they have the rights to build on their property and stop the other brother from going into his property. And but Rav argued. Rav says no, they absolutely have the right. The same rights that when in the father's times, they have the rights now also. Rav argues, but Rav Chama holds like Shmuel. And the halacha is taka like Rav Chama and Shmuel. So talking about the halacha that Rav Chama paskin, who started the Yasmi, the Yisraelim inherited a shtar chayiv that somebody owed their father money. They came to claim the money. The nafakal tavra. The guy pulled out a receipt showing that he paid up. Rav Chama, listen, the Yisraelim cannot collect that money. But even though normally if somebody pulls out a receipt, we rip up the shtar, we're not going to rip up the shtar. They were Yisraelim ktani. So he says like this: we cannot collect for the Yisraelim the chayiv. Why? He pulled out the receipt. He pulled out the receipt, so we should rip up the shtar. So he says, we don't rip it. When the Yisraelim become older, maybe they'll be able to bring proof that this is the whole thing is sheker. And we can, that the eidim on the shtar on the receipts is sheker. Well, the whole thing is sheker.
Take a lawyer.
Yeah, we'll get older, or they themselves will be sharp enough to figure it out. Rav Acha said to Ravina, what's the halacha? All these cases by the two houses, by the house and the aliyah, with the house sunk in, we said that he cannot force the upper floor, cannot force the bottom floor to move out. He could say he wants to stay. The halacha is like Rav Chama. The next case, with the guy built a wall against the guy's storage house, warehouse, blocking his windows. He cannot force him to empty out his warehouse in order that he should build a wall with the windows on the top. Even though it's just a warehouse, it's a big chiddush, but it's not a house. But nevertheless, he cannot force him to go through the ticha to empty out the house. Then we had now the palace, the third case. One inherited the palace and one inherited the garden. And the guy in the garden put up a wall. He cannot force him to take apart the wall. And this last halacha of the shtar, that we don't rip up the shtar because we wait for the Yisraelim to get older. The halacha is except for the last case where the guy comes with the receipt. We're not going to say when they get older they're going to prove that these eidim were eidim sheker. So then you have to rip up the shtar. Yeah. Mazuta, the son of Mari, said, even in this case with the shtar that you say inherited, the halach is like Rav Chama that we don't rip up the shtar. The im isa the top of Ma'al Yahu, because if this was a real receipt, when the father was asking for the money, that's the real case, and he would never could produce a receipt. After the father died and the children came for the money, mitamos given a receipt. So it was already shady business here. Shady business. From this that he didn't take out the shtar when the father was alive and asking for the money. So Shmami knows Ayu for Zaife. It's a little bit of a raya that at Mezaiv given this receipt, and therefore we don't rip up the shtar.
So which one is false? The shtar is false?
The receipt.
Maybe the shtar is false.
We're talking about the father asked for the money. He agreed he owed the money, but he never pulled a receipt.
Coming with the shtar. So we say they can't collect with the shtar because he has a receipt. So
He has a receipt.
Maybe the receipt is endless.
We're saying the receipt must be false because if he really had a receipt, he should have shown the receipt when the father was demanding the money.
He should have had the father tear up the shtar.
Yeah, or he should have shown the receipt. He was unable to produce the receipt at that time. So now that he produced all of a sudden the receipt, it looks like shady business. Zog the Mishnah.
That's why you wait till you grow up. That's why you wait till the kids
Till the
up.
kids grow up, and so they can fight it. Yes. Zog the Mishnah.
Camping.
Koifin Oisei, we forced the Ben HaChotzer, all the people of the Chotzer. You have a whole bunch of Chatzeres, and you have like a Mavoi, or you have like you know in Orlando the gated communities. So you have a Beishar, the guy. You have a guard there, and then you have two sticks. They let in the cars. They open up the sticks to let you have to bring proof you're part of the gated community, and if you are, or you have a pass, then they open the gate. Okay, so he says over here.
Here, like at the end of Remsen Village, there's a place like that.
Yeah.
What's it called? Seagate.
Seagate, that's where it is, right. So but here, then it was a full structure. It wasn't with sticks, it was a full structure. So Kaif Nice and Live Nice, we could force all the people of the gated area to build Beishar, a house for a small house in called a gate before the Chatzah, to watch that for Shmir, that people shouldn't just walk in, a watchman not to look in. The Delis L'Chatzah, then it was a full structure. Now today it works with sticks in a small little house, but then it was a house, and before you go into the Chatzah, there was a guy who might have lived there, but that comes in front of before you go into the Chatzah of all those houses in the gated area. So what happened? The Delis L'Chatzah, and there was a door for the Chatzah. They have to chip in. Not all Chatzeres need the Beishar. And the Gemara is going to elaborate later. We force every person to give a portion to build for the city a wall, a door, and a lock. Not all cities need a chayma. How much time does he have to be in the city that to be considered as a resident of the city? 12 months. But if he bought a house, so we said, he bought a house, he's there to stay. He's right away. He's a resident immediately when he bought a house. It's different if he got it as a matana or Yerusha, he didn't work for it. It could be he just took it.
He was a tenant, he don't have to pay.
Till 12 months. Once he's till 12 months, then he becomes a resident. Having a Beishar is a gated house to watch the gated area. Is that a good thing? There was this chassid that Eliyahu would come visit him, and he would come and visit him and speak to him. Ovad Beishar, this person in front of his beautiful house, he made a Beishar. And Eliyahu stopped coming to him. So you see, it's a bad thing. Why? Because Eliyahu had getted. Listen, Daniel used to come to the door of your chutzah, scream, knock, and you would hear it. You go, do you like that Beishar? And then we can't go understand. And so, in fact, your mother. So the first.
Before they put a big shot for him, that he shouldn't come.
Okay, no.
That's
So,
what he's saying.
so the old Mepharshim is why does it have to be? Why do you have to say Eliyahu Navi because of Eliyahu Navi? And that you could say it's the Ghanim cannot collect. It's a wrong thing to do. So they answer because it's only a midas chassidus. A fish leminadin, you're allowed to have your privacy. You're not mechuyev to let people so close into your house. It says Eliyahu would come to him because he was a chassid. Mitzad midas chassidus, he did the wrong thing. He shouldn't have built a Beishar. So you want to look kasha? This is nishkin kasha. And we're going to give 4 answers. Here it's talking about that he put the Beishar on the outside, right? So you can't even get to the chutzah door. You have to go through the Beishar. If he screams by the Beishar, it's not going to go. No, he can't bells behind his mung, and if he can't get in, he can't scream. He doesn't hear nothing. But here we're talking about that the Beishar was after the door of the chutzah, so he can already reach very close to the door of the chutzah. So from there he can yell, he can hear. And Nabi by him if you want. Both of them the Beis Shah was on the outside. Like kasha, it's not a kasha. Had isli delis. Here it's talking about the Beis Shah had a door, so he couldn't get in, so he was afraid to open the door to go into Beis Shah. You need to have permission, show proof. So if he would scream from in front of the Beis Shah to the balabas, he wouldn't hear anything. The Leslie Delis. Here, this Beis Shah didn't have a Delis. You can go inside the Beis Shah and reach up to the door of the Chatzah and give a scream.
He couldn't walk in and go in.
The one that would said that it's not that Eliyahu Hanavi was not happy with is talking about there was a door. So the only couldn't even get close to the door of the Chatzah.
There was no door, then Eliyahu will cover.
So if there was no door, you can get to the Chatzah. Yeah, Eliyahu wouldn't have a problem with that. Ibay saying if you want Hadis Delis, they both had a door. And it was on the outside. Like kasha, it's not a kasha. Here there was a key, and so by the door, so you could open it. The Leslie Pesachas. Here there was no key for the guy to open the door to go towards the chatzah. They both had keys. Both the doors had keys. Like kasha, and it's not a kasha. Here, where was a bad thing? Where was the key? On the inside. So you can't even. There's no key to open.
They didn't have the numbers.
No combination then. What key is that? The Pesach they but over here the key was on the outside, so Donnie was able to open the door and get close. It says in the Mishnah, we learned the Mishnah. We forced him to build a Beishar and a gatehouse and a door and a chatzah. Tanya, we learned in the Braisa. Not all chatzeros needed the Beishar. So here you have a picture. Here you have a chatzeros, the front chatzeros and the back chatzeros, and here you have a mavui, an alleyway where all the chatzeros opened up to. So here's the Shusarabim. So who needed the Beishar? The purpose of the Beishar was that the rabbin shouldn't look into these people's chatzeros. When a lot of people were walking, sometimes people ended up, in the end, they would be able to see it. So that's why, for these front chatzeros, they needed the Beishar. The other ones in the cul-de-sac, they didn't need it. Nobody goes so far. So he says, only those chatzeros that were close to the Rishus Rabbim. Those were fit for the Beishar, needed the Beishar. Those chatzeros that were not close to the Rishus Rabbim, was not needed for. They didn't need the gated area because they wouldn't go so deep into the alleyway. Rabbanan, what? There is. Rabbanan argue and say zimnim, even for zimnim the dochaki. Sometimes it gets so many people come. And they go all the way to the back. Even though it's just zimnin, the Rambam says the only time that you need to have a Beishar is if it's a Tzedek Gadol. They're arguing, what is Tzedek Gadol? If it has to be the whole time or zimnin. The Rabbanan halt nafilo zimnin is a Tzedek Gadol. Even if it's only at times that the Shusam fills up and goes all the way to the back. We learned. Okay, we force him to build a wall for the city. So the Gemara here we have a different girsa. Tanya, we learned in the Braisa, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says that not all cities are fit for a wall. Only those cities that were close to the border. October 11th. October 7th in Eretz Yisrael, those were close to the border, and so those are really those cities that are not close to the border. Does not need a wall. Huh? Rabbanan, what's the sweat of the Rabbanan? Why do they say even those cities that are deep in, you need a wall? Because at times a bigger army, a bigger gang of robbers can come in and they go in to attack a whole city. So you need it. When they start collecting, how do they collect? According to how many members there are in the family because they're being saved. Even that's what we collect. According to the assets that a person has, the wealth. Gavin, so the rich is, because we're talking about Gazlanim, so he has to pay, they have to pay more money. We collect according to their wealth. Velaz b'ni cover bei masmeiras. Velaz, my son, Rabbi Yechon says, put nails and set, this is the halacha, don't move away from this psak. Right, it goes according to wealth. Ikadam, the others say, Bayimanei, Rabbi Laz ben Rabbi Yechon. Rabbi Laz had gefragt Hashar ben Rabbi Yechon. I'm going to learn like the gifts that says, do they collect even according to the closeness of the houses to the border, in addition to the money that they have to pay? Or we only go according to the wealth. If you have two ashirim, and you have a wealthy guy with a house that's closer to the border, and a wealthy guy that's further away from the border, so maybe the wealthy guy that's close to the border should have to pay side mitzad wealth and side being close to the border, because he's being protected. They also collect according to the closeness of the house to the border. And Rabbi Yechon said, my son, cover by masmares, knock nails into this halacha. This should be the halacha. We'll stop this. And that's how the halacha was established.
Over here,